Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the High Elves, who are going to be helmed by Tyrion, and the Lizardmen, who are going to be led by Jabba the Hutt. So let's jump right into this game, guys, and take a look at some of the army compositions. So in the front line, I do have an alternating core of the White Lines of Trace, who are going to be supported by the more elite Phoenix Guard. So the White Lines definitely do pretty well in this matchup because they have 90 armor, and most of the Lizardmen frontline troops, with the exception of the Temple Guards, have very low armor piercing values. So there's Skink Cohorts, and of course the Saurus Warriors, all of whom will really struggle against these bad boys. And they do have armor piercing, so if they do end up bringing a front line of Temple Guard, they'll still trade very efficiently for their cost. On top of that, we do have the Phoenix Guard, and these guys are definitely the MVPs in this matchup. They pretty much have incredible stats across the board. They have 100 armor, very good leadership, and for like a halberd type unit, they have pretty good weapon strength values. You can see they do have a bonus for a Sarge of 20, and 25 of their 36 weapon damage is going to be armor piercing. So that is really important against the dinos, because you can look over here, Lord Mazdamundi, or Jabba as we've coined him, has 140 armor. These Croxagors also have 100 armor and are a large target. And if they bring, let's say, Krokgar, for example, or just kind of the slew of other units like Bastillodons and Stegodons and all of those units, the Phoenix Guard are pretty much going to be good in all of those matchups. And on top of that, they hold the front line really well because they have a physical ward save of, I think, 25%, or it's actually 30. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. So definitely a pretty good combination of units there on the front line. In the secondary line, I do have Tyrion as my lord, and he's definitely pretty decent in this matchup because of the Sunfang. So Sunfang is his magical item that can be activated twice over the course of a battle, and it does massive fire damage to lightly armored targets. So basically, you just want to find the Saurus Warriors in the front line and just, take them out. Very, very strong ability. He does have Feint and Repost, which gives him melee defense and physical resistance and some other good stats. And that's pretty much it. Just kind of a vanilla combat lord, but, has some pretty excellent stats with 79 melee attack and 72 melee defense. For our caster, we do have the Lore Master of Hoeth. This guy's pretty awesome. Armor piercing frontline troop. He can fight amongst fight with the boys. He also has 90 armor, so he's going to be very resilient against standard Saurus combat. And he does have Earthblood, Wyson's Wild Form, and Spirit Leech. So arguably Spirit Leech and and Earthblood are some of the more competitive spells in the game. So having those kind of on one very durable character is quite nice. In many other matchups and factions, it's very easy to snipe out casters, but he definitely does not go down without a fight. And also, I'm trying something out a little bit different. I do have two Lothern Sea Guards. So these guys are the anti-large kind of archer unit. So you can see they do have the bows, very similar to standard archers, with the exception of having a little bit less range. I think they have 165 compared to 180. But these guys do have an anti-large bonus in melee, so I figured if he was going to be flanking me with cold ones or anything else like that, these guys would be able to defend themselves. And worst case scenario, even if like a Carnosaur or Croxagors got on these guys, they would put up a decent fight with their anti-large bonus as well as their 44 melee defense. So that's pretty much it for my army, guys. For the dinos, they have a whole front line of these Skink Cohorts that are going to be saturated with the more elite Temple Guard. So Temple Guard are definitely going to be okay here. Like if I had Silver Helms or, some other, Phoenix, even against Phoenixes, they'll do well because they have decent weapon strength. And on top of that, they also do have a bonus versus large of 16. So I definitely need to be careful with this Frostheart Phoenix. So he's got two of those bad boys, which will do okay dent in my front line. But you can see he kind of, gave up his side flanks here and had to bring Skink Cohorts to afford the Croxagors. So these guys are very good against a lot of different High Elf infantry. Granted, they will struggle very badly against Phoenix Guard, but against White Lines, against Swordmasters of Hoeth, these guys are pretty much a hard counter. They're extremely durable, have a good anti-infantry bonus, if I'm not mistaken, of 18. And just have pretty excellent stats across the board. Granted, their melee attack and melee defense is a little bit low, but that's kind of a trait of monstrous units in general. So he does also have some Coldland Riders, definitely a good idea because he can track my Phoenix and, get that nice anti-large bonus. He's got Jabba the Hutt, definitely has kind of a slew of spells here. It looks like he does have Arcane Unforging, Apotheosis for healing, Comet, so he has pretty much all of them, I think, except Harmonic Convergence. He does have a Skink Chief over here to probably provide the, the Cold Blood. And I actually haven't seen this item intact yet, or this ability used. It's the War Drum of Zwahotek. I can't even say that. But it gives speed and leadership and some other stats. So maybe he's going to have them run with the Skinks here. But two groups of the Chameleon Skinks, I definitely like that. Very resilient against missile fire and definitely good at harassing and skirmishing. So he definitely wants to get those Skinks shooting at my Phoenix. So this Phoenix is pretty cool. I forgot to kind of show you guys. It does have some attack debuffs here. So it actually lowers melee attack and AP values. Definitely some fancy stuff. So my apologies for the long-winded introduction. A lot of new units here, but guys, let the games begin. So right now, he is advancing, and I'm just going to be focusing on the Temple Guard. Granted, they do have shields, but I figured, the Skanks are pretty much just going to get annihilated by whatever they end up fighting, so I just wanted to try and take out and do as much damage as I could to these high-value targets. And once the Croxagors get in, that's who you want to shoot. They don't have shields, they do have 100 armor, so they're not going to take the most damage, but they're still a big monstrous unit that come in small numbers, so they can get taken down by density, after the fight really gets going here. So In the front line, these Phoenix Guard are going to be engaging, and they do have charge defense against also. It's yeah, but I think I accidentally countercharged because I thought it was a different matchup. I thought they were my white lines, but they're going to charge in here, so they unfortunately are going to take the charge bonus from those units, but you can see these skink hordes are just going to bounce off these elite Phoenix Guard in the front line. They took like no damage from that charge anyways, and these Temple Guard are probably going to get just beaten down. Phoenix Guard are such an elite unit. Over here on the side, my white lines of Chase have a less favorable matchup versus these Croxagores. You can see they're being sent flying in all directions, but you see that sword from Tyrion just roasting these skanks and doing some okay damage against the Temple Guard. But on that same note, the Croxagores go down incredibly fast to missile fire, even though they're heavily armored. So I wasn't sure how long they would last, but I was very glad they actually were going down very, very quick. In the center, you can see that Jabba the Hutt is fighting against my Phoenix, and the Phoenix is a very, very good answer for kind of focusing him because it has good armor piercing values, it's mobile, and it also mitigates some of his stats. So you can see these Cold One Spear Riders are going to be charging into the front line, but the White Lines and the Phoenix Guard are holding pretty strong, despite the fact that they're taking a ton of shock damage from these different units. You can see my Phoenix is kind of roaring with displeasure right there, but it's doing its best. The Phoenix Guard on the far side are pretty much just handling everything. They're handling literally 3 groups of troops, and Jabba does definitely not want to be over here. That is the wrong neighborhood. So you can see these Phoenix Guard are just mangling these Croxagores. They're beating down the Skink cohorts and these Temple Guard all by themselves, which is pretty incredible. So I do cast the Wison's Wild Form, which is going to give them 130 armor, and also give them a pretty decent little buff on their weapon damage. So looks like they were poison though, so those little chameleon skinks in the back definitely doing some work. But my Lothern Sea Guard are pretty much unimpeded. You can see the Croxagores over here were routed off by the Sea Guard. Did they actually shoot while moving? It looks like they did, but so there was something that was changed in Total War Warhammer 2, guys. For those of you guys that haven't noticed, if you look at the arc of fire on these archers, they are literally shooting up and going down, so they do not get obstructed as easily. And that was one of my big things that, you know, from a physics standpoint, yes, it probably doesn't make much sense. It's not going to have the hardest impact, but it looks cool, and it's definitely very nice, because being obstructed is definitely not fun, but it makes the archers much, much more effective. So the Spearmen in the front line are holding, and Curse of the Midnight Wind is going to mitigate some of their stats, but they still do have that melee defense active, so they're going to be just fine. In the center, you can see Jabba's getting a little bit crazy, but he's starting to take some missile fire, and the Phoenix Guard are just crushing it over here. I mean, they've barely taken any damage, and they've been fighting Croxagores who hit like trucks, and Temple Guard, all of whom have pretty good AP value, so that 30% resistance definitely coming in handy. So the Croxagores did come back in on this side, and they're getting a little bit dino crazy over here, but the White Lines of Trace definitely being champs, and these ones actually had silver chevrons poured into them, so they're a little bit more durable. I don't know if that was the most efficient swing. It was like a one-handed axe beat down there, but that Croxagore gives him a nice little headbutt there. But I do kind of reallocate my archers to pepper these guys down, and you can see it's actually working pretty well. And despite their 100 armor, they are going down pretty quick. So the White Line should be able to kind of hold the remnants of those skinks over there, which is fine. And you can see these Phoenix Guard right here in a very, very pitched fight versus the Temple Guard, but I think the Temple Guard have a little bit higher weapon strength, but aside from that, the Phoenix Guard have superior stats pretty much everywhere else, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, their melee defense and melee attack's much higher. The Cold One's also charging in. They want to, you know, crack one open with these Phoenix Guard, but the Phoenix Guard are definitely not going to have any of that attending those AA classes, but doing their best. Also, the Lothern Sea Guard. So this is something that actually was pretty nice. Like, I saw a cab charge coming in. My first instinct was like, oh no, I should probably run, but I'm like, oh wait, these are Lothern Sea Guards. So they're actually like spearing down these dinosaurs and just kind of laying the royal beating on them, which is really cool. So I definitely like that. At first I was very opposed to using missiles against the dinos because I figured their armor would be too much, but the Lothern Sea Guard is kind of like, worst case scenario, they're just like glorified spear units and you can send them in against the dinos, so there's not too much loss there. The Phoenix Guard are going to be charging in here, getting a nice little anti-large round on Big Papa Jabba here, and you can see he's kind of rampaging through some of these guys, but he is taking missile fire now. My Phoenix is going to be re-engaging on him, applying those debuffs. And the front line for my opponent is pretty much shattered completely. You can see I have my Lothern Sea Guard, some Phoenix Guard are kind of holding my flank against some skinks right here, and I get another good roast from Tyrion. That's going to be cooking some of those lizards. And he does have the chameleon skinks in the background who are kind of poking away at some of my white lines and whatnot, but they're not doing the most damage. And you can see that Mazdamundi is going to drop Apotheosis as well as the Shield of the Old Ones, which gives him magic resist. But it's not going to be enough. He's taking quite a bit of missile fire now. And I also do drop a Spirit Leech, so he did mitigate some of that with that Shield of the Old Ones, which was pretty cool. But the Lothern Sea Guard definitely performing very well. Only 12 and these ones have 7 kills, but they were shooting at Croxagores for like half the battle. You can see the last of these Skinks and Temple Guard are pretty much getting routed off the battlefield by the combined forces of the High Elves. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. Like, I've been playing quite a bit of ladder the past few days, and, you know, I enjoy all the factions, and I really thought, like, right on launch and even in the pre-release that I wasn't going to enjoy the High Elves at all, but I've been really playing them quite a bit, and I just enjoy them a lot. Like, they're really fun. Like, getting to have these really elite kind of, you know, monsters, well, I wouldn't call them monsters, but, you know, troops like the Phoenix Guard, just durable and tanky and kind of very, I don't know if professional would be the right word, but they definitely do the trick. A nice banishment coming down from Jabba, his last death thrust right here before this Phoenix gets him, but I've really been enjoying the High Elves. I feel like they perform pretty decently against the Lizards as well as the Dark Elves. The one matchup I've been struggling with quite a bit, though, is against the Skaven. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of Doom Wheel spam and other things like that are pretty tricky, but I think kind of dealing with Doom Wheels, Phoenixes are pretty good. Also, the Phoenix Guard, maybe just bring a couple more of those. Even though it's counterintuitive in the Skaven matchup, I still think it might be a good idea because they'll pretty much handle the Doom Wheels no problem. Then also maybe some Silver Helms to kind of block those things up would be the recipe for success. But more testing is required, guys. But very well played by my opponent, Jackie R2G. As far as the army competition goes, it worked pretty well. The Phoenix Guard did their job. The Lothern Sea Guard took out the Croc scores, which was pretty essential. And yeah, everything just kind of jived. And for my opponent's army, I liked it. Like, you know, if he didn't go the Temple Guard, he might have been able to cut the chevrons on these guys. I don't know if that was necessary. Maybe it was. I think he might have just had like 500 left and just needed to spend it. But I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the Temple Guard here. I think maybe just going wider with some Saurus Warriors and then getting, yeah, and also the Croxagores. Croxagores, I don't know, I feel like Phoenix Guard, you're going to see Phoenix Guard in this matchup, right? So then the Croxagores pretty much just get like hard countered by those guys, as well as like, you know, missile pressure is pretty good on Croxagores as well. But there have been quite a few high elf builds where people just bring like Swordmasters of Hoeth and White Lion, so they would have been good in that same respect. So I can't really criticize it. Like he had anti-large here. He also had a good armor piercing. He had mobility, good skirmishing. Jabba the Hutt, of course, brings the magic. So it's pretty good stuff. So yeah, well played to my opponent, Jackie R2G again. Look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that high elf build. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.